Hi, this is Tom Hoffarth. I'm the editor of the new book, Perfect Eloquence, An Appreciation of Vin Scully, which includes 67 essayists telling us their connection with Vin Scully, the Hall of Fame Dodger broadcaster over the years. One of the essayists has joined us today. That's Ken Levine. And let me read you his quick bio so you know Ken's background. And Ken's going to read his essay for you. Ken is the award-winning writer, director, and producer. And actually, during his work on the TV series MASH, he created a recurring character that appeared in season 7 named Sergeant Jack Scully, named after Vin Scully. Ken also wrote for Cheers, Frasier, The Simpsons, and he ventured off to become a Major League Baseball play-by-play broadcaster from 1991 through 2012 with Baltimore, Seattle, San Diego, and the Dodgers, where he also co-hosted Dodger Talk postgame show on radio with Josh Shushan. Ken's second season episode of The Simpsons was called Dancing Homer and created the fictitious Springfield Isotopes baseball team, a nickname the AAA Albuquerque team has eventually adopted. Ken also wrote the 1993 book, It's Gone. No, wait a minute. Talking My Way into the Big Leagues at 40. He hosts the podcast Hollywood and Levine, and his work can be found at his blogspot.com. So now, Mr. Levine.
Thank you. All right, so this is the article that I contributed to the book, which I shall now read to you. Every day when I was in the Dodger Stadium press box and Vin Scully would say, "Hi, Kenny," I was taken aback. It's like, oh my God, the prettiest girl in school knows my name. I hosted Dodger Talk on the radio for 8 years, and the highlight was getting to actually work with Vin Scully. Vin Scully was my hero. I became a baseball announcer because of Vin Scully. I knew at age 8 that if I wanted to make it to the big leagues, it would not be as a player. I also became a writer because of Vin Scully. More than anything else, he was a storyteller. How many nights did I sit in my car in the driveway, mesmerized by Scully describing some dramatic game situation? Now, looking back, I think it might have been some stupid mid-season inning between the Dodgers and the Montreal Expos that ultimately meant nothing, but I sat riveted, enthralled. The man was a master storyteller. Shakespeare brought to you by Farmer John Wieners. His inspiration guided my career choices and, in many ways, shaped my life. I owe him a debt I can never repay. When we were on the road, I made sure that he never carried a bag, but I don't think that that was sufficient. What made Vin Scully so special? His play calling, knowledge of the game, sense of humor, poetic use of language, storytelling, rising to the occasion of big moments, instant recall of games past, making spring training games sound interesting. Well, all of the above, but something else. There was a game late in the season a few years back, final day of the year. The Dodgers and another team were battling for the division title. And on this Sunday at Dodger Stadium, they were going head to head. The winner took it all. And wouldn't you know, it all came down to the 9th inning. Don't you love baseball? Now, if you subscribe to MLB.com, you can go back and listen to any team broadcast from that year. They're all archived. A few days after the game, I thought it would be fun to hear how both broadcasters called it. Now, the visiting broadcaster is also one of the best in the business and in the Hall of Fame. Books will be written about him someday. Now, I listened to him first. With the Dodgers up and a man on base, an easy double play grounder was hit to the shortstop. But this was a rookie just called up, and for whatever reason, he booted it. Now, the announcer lit into him. This was a play you need to make in the big leagues. He wasn't wrong, and there's something to be said for objectivity. That proved to be a very costly error. But then I listened to Scully's call of that inning. Same description of the miscue, but a different reaction. Scully said, "You know, your heart has to go out to that young man. I mean, not used to playing in front of 50,000 people and a national TV audience, just called up from the minors, being in a pressure situation unlike any he's ever faced. He must feel so terrible. And it hit me. That's what made Vin Scully so exceptional, his humanity. With everything on the line, Scully's reaction was empathy. His inherent goodness was what made us not just admire him, but love him. He truly did become a member of your family. If only he could have been at our Thanksgiving dinners instead of that weird uncle who always had dandruff in his mustache. Toward the very end of his career, he and I were flying home from Phoenix, where Scully had called a momentous spring training game. By the time we arrived at LAX, it was well after 10 p.m. Scully was dog tired. He was probably in his mid-80s by then. Well, we exited the restricted area where friends and family awaited passengers. And needless to say, when Vin Scully emerged, the 20 or so people in the area were beyond thrilled. They swarmed around him, asked for photos and autographs. Now, it would have been so understandable if he had said that he was exhausted and declined, but instead, he stayed for 15 minutes, signed every autograph, shook every hand pre-COVID, and took every selfie. Humanity. And he said hello to me every day. I still can't believe my good fortune. I love the story that when the Dodgers came to LA and the first radio station they were on was KMPC, which was the big full service station. They had the Rams and they had UCLA Bruins and they had the Los Angeles Angels minor league team.
This was Gene Autry's station, right?
This was Gene Autry's station. And so when O'Malley signs with them, they say, oh, and we have some wonderful announcers. You're going to be real pleased. And O'Malley said, no. I'm bringing the announcers. These are my announcers.
And he brought Vin and Jerry, and I think he left Red and one or two others behind.
Yeah, no, he left. Al Helfer
Yeah.
was doing the games at that time in Brooklyn. And Al wanted to be the number one guy. And O'Malley said, no, Scully was going to be the number one guy.
Yeah. And then do you remember too, the reason why they left KMPC after about a year was because O'Malley?
Yeah, O'Malley, there was some weekend where O'Malley went up to Arrowhead.
Right.
On a vacation. And again, this was 59 and the Dodgers were in the thick of the pennant chase. And he couldn't get the game. The KMPC signal, which basically during the day is 50,000 watts straight up the Central Valley, but they couldn't get it. And then he tuned down the dial to KFI, which is 50,000 watt clear channel, and that was booming in. And O'Malley said, next year we're on this station. And then they moved to KFI, and Gene Autry basically he went to the owners' meetings trying to get a team to move to LA so that he could have a team to broadcast. And when no one wanted to come to LA and they were doing expansion, then he basically said, okay, I'll buy the Angels. Really, right. So that he had programming for KMPC.
Yeah, I think Hank Greenberg, the former Detroit Tiger Hall of Famer, was leading a group to get an expansion team in LA, and that fell through. And so he's at these owners' meetings. They go, well, do you want the team?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take the team. So he just got a team dropped in his lap, and hey, I got a radio station. We can do this too.
You're right.
So
I remember one time there was like a spring training game and something struck Vinny something, remember, it was Washington Senators. And Vinny just went on a laughing jag. He went on such a laughing jag that he said to Jerry, finish this half inning. Okay. So Jerry finishes the half inning. They go to commercial. They come back. It's Vin. He apologizes. It's like nothing like that's ever happened before. I'm really sorry. So we go on to the bottom of the fourth inning for the Dodgers. Coming up, and Jerry goes on the mic. Goes Washington Senators, and Vinny's gone again. Jerry had to do the inning.
Oh.
This was very early in the season. It was like the first weekend of the season, and we're in New York, and it had snowed that Saturday night. And I got to the park early Sunday morning, and it looked like it was Christmas morning. The field was white. Clearly no game that day. And the only other person who was in the press box was Vin. This was several hours before the bus was supposed to arrive. So he and I went to the press lounge and just started talking. And it was great to have like just 2 hours with Vin. And he told me a story that I had never heard. And I think he has since mentioned it briefly, but he was saying that as a kid growing up, he was a Yankees fan. And his third year here in LA, it was like 1960. And he got a call from the Yankees, and they offered him the job as their #1 announcer. And he thought very seriously about it. He said, I hadn't totally settled into Los Angeles. This was my boyhood team. This was New York. I'd be the voice of the New York Yankees. And he said, I almost took it. He said, I came very close to taking it. At the end of the day, he said, I felt a loyalty to the O'Malleys for hiring me and keeping me on in the first place. And he said, and there was just something in my craw that said, stick it out here. This is where you belong. And he stayed. But can you imagine how different our world would have been if Vin Scully had done the Dodgers for 2 years and then left?